The news is GDC wrap up, Dice wrap up. Monique put in here that Sam is a teenage heartthrob.
Oh, yeah.
And a teenage dirtbag.
Butterscotch Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 88 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, and I don't even know what's happening right now.
I'm Sam, and I also don't know what's happening.
And today is Morch 7, 2017. We somehow fell in between February and March. We landed in March.
So I want to live in the world where the way you pronounce the calendar must be the real way they do.
Wait. Is there a mortuary?
There is. That's the end of March.
The last day.
The last day of March.
Where you think about all the good times you had in March.
And then you die.
And then you die.
Also, warning, anything could happen on this show. There's going to be profanity, and we're going to talk about stuff.
Super adult stuff.
And
like mortgages.
And
mortuaries.
Responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Chids.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So brace yourselves. Are you ready?
Put some braces on your teeth.
All right, so brace your teeth because it's March time. So we're
already off the rails.
We're super tired. We missed the podcast last week. Why?
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody.
We were gone.
Yeah, Where had we gone to?
We'd gone to GDC.
The GDC is a conference, the Game Developers Conference.
It's like Khaleesi.
Yeah.
From Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Happens in San Francisco every year. We always go. It's end of February, beginning of March.
Mm-hmm. It was way early this year. Usually it's middle of March.
It did feel early.
It was February 27th.
All I know is it's always during my wife's birthday.
Yeah, that's true.
No matter how they slide it forward and back, they always make sure that it overlaps with my wife's birthday.
Like, make sure that one day's in there.
Yeah.
It's not too far.
It's a problem. But hey, what are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So we went to GDC. We why did we go there? What's happened? What is it even?
So the Game Developers Conference it's basically all of the game developers in the world try to go to this conference in San Francisco to both share knowledge. So there's conference tracks. So you can buy like an indie pass, which gives you access to a bunch of talks by other indie developers that are, postmortems or maybe pieces of tech they built and talking about approaches to studio development, whatever. There's business tracks about, how to run a studio, about building a diverse workplace, all this stuff. So
mostly there's business tracks about different ways you can put ads in your games.
Yeah. So there are a lot of ad companies.
Sponsored by ad companies.
Yeah. A lot of ad companies, these things, which is always amusing.
It wasn't chill because every time we sat down and said hello to somebody, it turned out they were another ad company representative.
Yeah, we're like, so what studio are you with? Like ads. And we're like, oh, shit.
It's almost more like
locked in.
ADDC. Yeah. Ad Distributors Developers Conference. Also, I like the idea that it's ADDC.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of ad networks there. But the whole point of going for most people is essentially to go. So in one part is to hear talks and gain some knowledge. Another part is to meet people. And I think the third sort of ambient part is to sort of be a part of the culture of game making.
Just to kind of put your finger on the pulse.
Yeah, be with your people.
Of the game dev community.
Put your finger on people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just kind of get a sense of like, what's going on out there.
Yeah.
What are people making?
We did feel a lot of pulses.
What are people talking about?
People thought it was a little weird. We just walk up to them.
Put a finger in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we might have gone to the wrong, networking seminar about that.
About what you're supposed to do to
how you're supposed
people.
To, yeah.
Feel the pulse.
We just they were like, just feel the pulse of the world, we just walk around and just like jam people right in the jugular.
Yeah.
So our goal has been for the last 4 years or so, because there's our fourth one in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's how they line up. And our goal ever since we went to our first one was to be able to go and give a talk. In one part, because it sort of legitimizes your studio and your ideas for GDC say, in theory, for them to say, yeah, sure, you can have a platform to tell people stuff. Two is it gives you a free pass.
That's the best part.
That's the best part.
Yeah, those shits are expensive.
Because a full access pass to GDC is something like $2,000, I think.
Yep.
So we were like, we would like to get those for free. And
oh God. Oh yeah, Sam got the flu.
I got the flu, so I'm recovering.
I had a cold, so
that's fine.
The final one, yes, that's so fine. But so the final piece for us in terms of giving a talk was just to see what happens. What happens if you give a talk at GDC? Because everyone always, it seems like it's supposed to be a big deal. right? So it's like it's like the
I mean,
industry's
GDC
event.
certainly acts like it's a big deal.
It does. So the question was, what happens?
What happens if you give a talk at GDC?
Huh? And in the past couple of years, we usually we spent a lot of time crafting one pitch for a talk, and then we send it in, and then we get rejected. So this happened the last 2 times.
It's just a tradition.
Yeah.
We're just like, it's time.
So this
It's
past
time to
year,
get shit on.
this past year, we were like, you know what? We're giving a goddamn talk at GDC, and especially with Crashlands, we were like, we have a lot of things to talk about, and at least we think so would be valid worth sharing. And so we made 11 different pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's set 11 different pitches in, and it actually got 2 of them through, almost 3 of them.
Yeah.
So,
Two and a
nine.
half.
So we got 9 talks rejected this year.
Yeah.
Instead of the traditional 1.
Yeah, so we realized it's kind of like
So
launching
we actually
games,
did
right?
way worse than we normally do.
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice. So we just
Yeah.
rolled a lot more dice this year.
Yeah. It's like a game launch.
Yeah, we got 2 talks in, and so we also did those at GDC. And so that was a Crashlands postmortem, which was on Tuesday, and then a sort of history of the studio talk, which was on Thursday. And
Sort of a studio post-mortem.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
studio mid-mortem?
mid-mortem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're like
Still
dying,
alive.
I guess.
A little
We're all,
bit.
I mean, we're all dying slowly.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
yeah, we just cut it open and
go for it.
Right in the middle.
investigate.
But yeah, so I think that the point for us for going to GDC was to test all these things about what does it mean to give a talk, and it was good. So we delivered on the promise that we'd made for the talks, which was to, in my case, I was like, I want to get a standing ovation for the Crashlands postmortem. And the only reason I thought that was possible is not because I could talk, very emotionally powerfully about numbers.
Not because necessarily you're good at talk.
Well, I mean, I am good at talk. No, I think because I am good at talk, but the story of Crashlands happens to weave in all the cancer stuff too, and the brother story.
It's a good story.
It's a really good story, and so and it's not just about the game, which really
and you're good at talk.
yeah, which is the thing at the end of the day. So we managed to pull that off. We did not get the backflipping one though, which I know was what the goal was. We established
nobody ended up in
last podcast.
space. There were no human pyramids.
No,
So
yeah.
basically a failure.
It
Yeah.
basically failed the talk.
It's really embarrassing, actually. Like after the talk, everyone was just standing and applauding, and I felt really bad for standing.
Yeah, and then I looked back at the camera and I was like, oh shit, it's recording. I was hoping there was going to be a technical problem and they weren't going to catch
We could just say
this horrible
there was a
failure.
human pyramid that did a backflip. It was so good.
Yeah, but now there's video evidence that definitely didn't happen.
Well, I mean, I think this camera stopped recording probably. So
At the
after
end?
that,
oh maybe,
maybe
Who knows?
maybe after we all left GDC, all the remaining
just
developers formed one
GDC made a
giant
human pyramid. It's hard to say. Anything could have happened. That's
Yeah,
true.
but so the talks went really well, and the Thursday one went well also. And it was fun because I think the way I was conceiving of it was essentially a mass networking opportunity. Where usually, if you want to go tell your story or your studio's approach to 100 people,
You do
it's gonna-
one at a time.
it's like one at a time. So like on the best days at the conference, we would get between 20 and 30 business cards, right? So and
That took forever.
That took forever, and we're pretty good at networking. I think we spend between like 10 and 15 minutes per person chatting, and maybe longer if it's a really good conversation. But it's usually really hard to reach that many people. So in one shot, if you have a good talk, then you can essentially reach. It's a one-to-many sort of approach, and then they come up afterwards, oftentimes, and exchange cards.
Well, and also the networking side of it can be exhausting because of the fact that you are
pitching.
you're telling people the same stuff over and
Yeah.
over and over again, and you're asking a lot of the same questions over and over again. Like you said, you're like, "Hey, I'm Seth. I'm from Butterscotch. Here's what we do. What's your studio? What do you do? What game are you working on?" You kind of run through the same thing, and like you said, every now and then there's some interesting stuff that comes up, and then you get to go deeper. But like the first 10 minutes is still kind of establishing context.
right.
and dominance.
Of course, establishing dominance. You got to do the alpha handshake.
Shove your finger into their jugular to check their pulse.
And then
Yeah,
you
so like-
do a handshake and you pull them to you.
No, you got to do the handshake
And you
where
stare them down
they
the
reach
whole
out their
time.
right hand, and then you grab the back of it with your left hand.
That's good.
And
That's
then
a good move.
Then you punch their closed fist with your right hand.
Ooh, yeah,
Yeah, it's really intense.
that's a good power move.
It's a power move. It's dangerous though.
What did you guys
Yeah,
think of
so-
GDC overall? Because I think so we hit our goals as far as the talks. They worked really well for networking stuff. I think a lot of people reached out afterwards and wanted to hear more about the various weird things that we're doing. And it turns out, I think my big takeaway actually from GDC is that we are weird. We are super duper weird.
I don't know if
in the
you
industry.
listeners have noticed this.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I don't know.
What's your take?
My take is everybody has their own kind of approach to things. I would definitely say that the way that we tend to dig into things a lot, and we take a lot of experimental and scientific angles to things, And so for example, we've been planning out what we're going to be doing for our next game. Like, what's our 5-year plan? How are we going to market the next game? Is there any weird thing we can try? And we're willing to spend weeks and weeks coming up with some just weird thing to do just to see what it's going to do. As long as we are also packing in a bunch of stuff so that we can try to measure what that means, right? And so we tend to take a lot more analytical mindset toward things. And the other thing I've noticed is we don't listen to most things at face value.
Correct.
Right? Because a lot of the talks at GDC, like my favorite thing is that one of the talks at GDC, one of the first talks was a talk by people who had spoken a couple of years back. And it was a series of like, was it 4 people?
4 or 5.
4 or 5 people who all had given talks in the past. And it turns out that they were wrong about basically everything. And so this talk was all of them. It was like a recap,
Corrective advice, sort
going
of thing.
back and looking at what they had said a few years ago and being like, well, turns out all these things I said were completely wrong. And somebody else on stage like, and I said all these other things and those were wrong too. Right. And so
They should have titled the talk, "We've misled thousands of people."
yeah. But the thing is, anytime you go to Gama Sutra, you go to a talk, anytime you hear from an industry veteran, they're going to have specific ideas about how things work based on a very particular set of circumstances that they've been exposed to.
A very limited set of circumstances.
A very limited one. Yeah. It's like you've launched one game, well, what does that mean? It means you got a sample size of 1 and maybe you launched it on Steam or maybe you launched it on Google Play or whatever.
Well, also industry veteran has tended to mean you're a pro developer who's bounced around from AAA to AAA studio, for example.
So
you don't even, that's a different kind of market than like an indie market. And so it doesn't really make sense to try to transfer that experience.
Yeah.
directly.
And so there's such a ludicrous diversity of experiences in the game dev industry between publishing, between studio management styles, between even working styles, marketing approaches, all this stuff. And nobody has a full picture, right? So we actually look at the experiences like GDC as sort of just gathering data, right? So it's going to postmortems, listening to what people are saying, not actually trusting any of it necessarily, but just kind of putting your finger on the pulse and seeing what are kind of the types of things that people are focusing on. Are there things that people seem to be missing? That kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's always, I like talking to these different people because of the fact that you get to catch all these perspectives.
Right. So it's always a week of, I think it's generally a week of you go in with an open mind, listen to everything everybody says, and then we usually come back and kind of in a, almost like an around the
we
campfire.
gather all the nuts and berries of knowledge. We come back and we grind them up into a paste and smear it on our face. To get ready for war. Yeah. It's a war paint.
So that was juicy.
I was just using to make my skin pretty, but I guess it got the purpose.
Face mask.
Well, we all have different roles in the studio.
It's true.
So also, speaking of rolling the dice for talks.
Wait a second. Did you say? Oh, gotcha. Okay.
We also, Sam went to DICE.
Yes.
Which is an award thing.
DICE, it's the sort of the big video game industry.
You know what it stands
awards.
for this time? So far, we've
Design, innovate, see,
captivate,
entertain,
capture.
I cannot remember what the C is.
Cremate.
Create. No.
Yeah.
Cremate.
Design, innovate.
I can never remember what the C is. I don't know why, but it's just
contort.
It's eluding.
Yeah, it's probably contort.
Design, innovate,
Capture,
bend
create.
into weird positions.
So DICE is a conference that's held every year out in Vegas. And that was my first time out in Vegas. Not that I got to do anything because I was just in my Airbnb or in the conference.
Well, and the only thing you get to do in Vegas is spend enormous sums of money.
Apparently it's like that is what you do.
I also want to say, so Sam registered for the Airbnb through one of the business email accounts, right? Of course, like you would. And we got a great review that came in. It forwarded to all of us at Butterscotch. We got a review of Sam's Sam being a guest. Whoever it was that was running that Airbnb, they loved it. You did a great job, Sam.
Thanks. I made my bed before I left.
Top-notch guest.
That was the thing.
They said that it was as if nobody was even there.
I wasn't there. That's the magical truth. I was never there.
Oh my goodness.
We'll be getting a refund. That's my.
Oh yeah, I didn't go. Can I have my money back?
But so DICE is interesting because it's not. So there's an extremely high cost of entry, which we got to sort of get around by virtue of the fact that Crash Engine was nominated for a DICE award, and DICE awards are kind of like, I've been told it's like the Oscars of gaming, but who knows? Because I was told that's what the IGF is too. So
it might be the gaming of Oscars.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's hard.
Or it's the Oscar the Grouch of
Sesame
They
Street.
did have a red
Sesame
carpet,
Street.
though very hilariously, it was I kid you not. I think it was 15 feet long.
They're like, this is all we can.
How long are they? I guess
So
I
we
like,
could
it
afford-
was.
how long are they normally?
You know, because I guess I have this image of it being like a
Some long
a
thing.
vast expanse, and so
They might always just be short. It might just be like
you never know. You know?
yeah, from like the limo. So you open your door to your limo.
How
you step
was,
onto red carpet.
how was the carpet material? Was it kind of like, was it plush? Was it
Was it like
Everyone,
felt? It's
everyone
probably
was
like a
just so
felt.
amused by how short this carpet is. That
so like they made the red carpet as long enough for it technically
to be
count.
a red carpet, right? It was a red carpet.
Yeah,
That'd be hilarious
carpet.
if they just took that all the way and it was just like a mat.
Like a welcome
So-
mat.
Yeah, so you'd step just onto it and they would snap a photo
Of
and
you.
you'd step
Yeah.
off of it.
Honestly, it felt kind of like that. It felt like they built it specifically so they could handle like 5 people in it at once.
Yeah. And like in
that
one
was
picture. So they could take one picture
Right.
and it would extend across.
Right.
Border to
So
border.
How did we land on red carpet as a society
I don't know, it's
as
just
being the thing
so
that famous,
After
it's the
reading
thing
that-
that famous people walk on?
After reading that advertising book,
oh, I bet it's
there's an advertiser in there somewhere that caused this to happen,
Mhm.
which is actually a good recommendation if you want to realize just how much you are a tool of the advertising companies.
Yeah, the book is called The Attention Merchants.
Yeah.
It's
fucked
freaky.
up.
Yeah, well, seeing things, there are some things in there that I see them and I'm like, I can kind of see how this is true. So, for example, apparently before the 1950s or so, Santa Claus had all kinds of different depictions.
Mhm.
And then Coca-Cola was like, not anymore. Now Santa Claus is going to be red and white.
For
Right?
real.
Yeah. And so Coca-Cola tried to take ownership of the holiday, and they still do with their polar bears and stuff.
Yep.
And they were just like, yeah, we're gonna do a marketing blitz for a few years where we put pictures of Santa Claus all over the place wearing Coca-Cola colors. Right. So
Oh, because that's true. That was Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
yeah, like this is not that long ago. Right.
Holy
And
shit.
now we have people getting outraged anytime there's any variation of what Santa is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
It was
when-
made by Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Or even like, why do people
You're
drink?
just a tool of Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Like, why do people drink orange juice for breakfast?
also a tool if you get angry about that sort of thing.
So-
just in general.
So apparently in, I think it was the 40s or something, oranges started becoming available in the United States. Most people are like, what the fuck are these weird?
yeah, what are we gonna do
squishy-
with these?
Fuck are these weird squishy orange things? Well, they're oranges. So nobody knew what to do with them. And so the importers of the oranges were trying to find like different ways to sell the oranges. And they're kind of like a pain in the ass to eat. It's like, what if we just kind of like squoosh them and make them into juice? But then they had to explain to people what this
Why they would drink
what this
that.
juice is for.
because it's so vibrant looking. Looks dangerous.
It's very
Yeah.
bright.
Can you imagine
it's
if
very
you've never
acidic,
had
you know?
orange juice before and someone's like, drink this, and be like, fuck no.
Exactly.
What is the yeah?
It's like yellow.
I mean, like if your life experience is
cloudy.
basically like milk and water, maybe the occasional soft drink, you know, somebody's like, drink this weird, vibrant orange stuff that kind of burns because it's very acidic.
Mhm.
Don't put it in your eyes; it'll seriously hurt. So they had to try to find ways to sell this to people,
Mhm.
and they're like, well. We'll just tell people that it's health food for babies, and so people started just like giving orange juice to babies for
Mhm.
some reason.
And then somehow over time, with advertising, that turned into just everybody's supposed to have a glass of orange juice every day. I remember growing up, and that was how we were taught.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have
So now
orange.
it's part of your
orange-
breakfast.
It's part
Yeah.
of your yeah. You have orange juice for breakfast. Why? Because they realized that there was no sort of like
Need.
cold drink that had dominated the breakfast scene.
Mhm.
There was coffee and tea, but they're like, what about like some cold stuff? Right? Put orange juice in there.
Yeah.
So they just decided that that's where orange juice was gonna go. They
Mhm.
advertised the shit out of it. Now we're all just like, yeah, I mean, you drink orange juice for breakfast. That's what
Yeah,
it's
so,
for.
so many of these sort of accepted facts of life were actually just crafted by someone a while ago. and
Yeah,
then forgot
almost
about.
all of our cultural things that we do.
Well, yeah, I want to talk about this a little bit from the Attention Merchants book. We talk about time a lot. We talk about it a lot on the podcast. We talk about
Woke up time.
Woke up time. We talk about being mindful and in control of your own time a lot. And I think so. Over the past couple of weeks, I've starting to read this book and then doing a few of these other books I'm reading. I'm starting to think that time is probably the wrong thing to focus on, and I think attention is actually the thing to focus on. Because so I'm reading this book called The Artist's Way, which is a phenomenal sort of creative workbook.
Phenomenal.
And
Ba-ba-da-da.
one of the things he talks about is that, and we've talked about this a lot with psychology and all this other stuff. And the reason we hate Twitter, actually, this all binds together,
It's
which is
stupid.
that you really, there's the old saying, you are what you eat.
You are what you tweet.
You are what you, no, you are, you really are what you attend to. Okay. So attend to being pay attention to.
whatever
So,
you point your brain at.
Yeah. So I want to pull up the study from a while ago. We've talked about a few times, just the gratitude study. So if you take a few minutes out of your day, every day, and you just write 3 to 5 things you're thankful about from the past day, past 24 hours. If you do this day over day for like 30 days in a stretch, there's been plenty of psych studies that show that your overall level of happiness and contentment with life literally goes up, and usually it sticks. It's like a stuck thing. So in other words, by attending to the things that you should be thankful for in your life, your brain naturally starts doing this anyways, and sort of reshapes how you think. Okay. So you
starts as a conscious behavior and then becomes a subconscious.
And this is because you're tending to those things. So the reason we badmouth Twitter all the time is because as a thing to attend to, it's these really tiny, tiny thoughts. If you're crafting tweets for it, you can make the case that it's good for editing. Sure. Like as far as, getting pithy thoughts down.
No,
but,
it's good for editing, reading books.
Yes.
So you learn how grammar works.
Yeah. So attending to messages that are only so long constantly. And then usually in their nature, just vitriolic, almost across the board.
Well, because anger is the easiest emotion to convey in a very short span.
It is.
Actually, mundanity is
also
true.
That.
I ate Cheerios.
So in other words, you're filling your brain with just this nonsense. And if you think that it's going to have no effect on your ability to think or
just how you think about
or how you
things.
think, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I think I've been coming to a greater point in the reading the attention merchants thing, essentially telling the story of how our attention as a culture comes to be a commodity that is sold. And if you look at how Facebook sells, how Facebook works, how the internet itself drives traffic and all this stuff, they sell your attention via ads, that sort of thing. And so I've been shifting.
It's the idea of gather a crowd, make them look at something, and then bring in an advertiser and have them pay to have that crowd look at their thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I've been shifting away from the focus on just straight up time and over to, I think, attention, because certainly time is a valuable resource. Certainly, like you only have so much of it. But I think the thing that makes you able to make really good use of your time is your capacity to attend to the correct thing or the things that you want to attend to. Anyways, just
agree.
Some food for thought.
Agree. Yeah, I'm so happy to be done with GDC because I uninstalled Twitter at 4 p.m. on Friday.
As soon as we were done, we're all like, boop, just remove that shit.
I also have a confession to make.
What'd you do?
Which is anytime somebody handed me a business card, if their only point of contact was Twitter, I just threw it away. If this person's spending so much time on there that this is the way that they talk to people, I can't.
Over it?
I just can't.
Over it before it's begun?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel it.
So anyway, that's all for.
Oh yeah, so Dice was good.
Dice
was good. It was interesting. So the reason it's good beyond something like GDC is because it's only for studio heads. So they had a little side note in the sign up where it was like, where does your assistant's email? I was like, I don't have one of those. Put my email in here twice, I guess. So it's all C-suite people, and they usually are from bigger companies. And I was talking to Rami from Vlambeer about this. He said that up until about 4 years ago, it was almost exclusively like the AAA studios. It's only been the past couple of years that they figured out some ways to get more indies into the conference before the award show. So it was really hilarious talking to people because I'd go to them and they'd be like, oh, tell me about what you got going on. It's like, oh yeah, so we, Butterscotch Shenanigans, an independent studio out of the Midwest, and we doubled in the past year. And they're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, from 3 to 7. they're like, what? Oh. And then all these people have like 150 to 400 to 2,000 person companies, right? Yeah. I did get to meet the CEO of Blizzard, which was cool, and Jeff Kaplan, who's like the nicest dude I have ever met. He's a guy who made Overwatch and some World of Warcraft.
I've heard good things about him.
He is so laid back. It is comical. Like, of all the people that I expected would have some ego, because I'm like, holy shit, this guy's made like a lot of the Touchstone games. Just the most chill dude I've ever met in my life. So nice. And apparently his brother-in-law or his brother, one of the two, had been telling him to play Crashlands as of like last week, which was hilarious. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, my brother's been telling me to play this. That was like the best thing ever. And I was like, yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so there's a couple of fun things like that. And then just got a couple contacts so that I think, as we grow and as we confront some of these organizational challenges that come from growing a studio, I can call on some people and say, hey, Jeff. I didn't get his business card because he's too cool for me. But someone else.
It's one of those like, oh, here's my business card. And then they respond with like, thanks. I don't have mine on.
Right. So that was really fun. And then a guy from Marvel gave a really good talk about why it is that you make stories and why it is they make games. Just a phenomenal talk. The end all point of which was it's how, and this is the talk also from Jeff Kaplan about Overwatch. So Overwatch builds a future. The goal of there was to build a future that people wanted to actually have exist in a lot of ways.
But also where people
everyone's murdering
each other.
So
sort of
there's some dissonance there. Sure. So there's always that. The major reason,
But where murder has no consequence.
Yeah.
So, the end all point they made is that so Diva is DVA, the mech suit warrior gamer Korean woman from Overwatch. He talks about her in particular because they found someone sent them a link to a feminist rally that was happening in South Korea, and they were flying a Diva flag. And then there was this whole organization that's called like the Divas that essentially exists, and it literally says, this character doesn't currently exist, like could not currently exist in South Korea as it is, and we're going to build for a future where she could.
So they're advocating for building mech suits?
No. So
Self-destruct and murdering people.
not the mech suits. The idea being that or the idea put forth by the Marvel guy and Jeff Kaplan was simply that you want to build a world that leaks in a positive way into our current world, and makes people either make them happier, make them feel like they belong more, that sort of thing. So to make them build,
give them an ideal to strive for.
Yeah.
So like Grand Theft Auto would be a good
Basically, yeah.
example
We're
of
talking about Grand Theft Auto, Skyrim, let's go blow up dragons.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to hijack a dragon.
Yeah.
And
So you're talking about sort of Grand Theft Auto Skyrim sort of hybrid.
A fusion. Yeah.
Where you come up to the dragon, you take the dragon out of the dragon, you get inside the dragon, and now you're the dragon.
And then you kick the dragon that you took out of the dragon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a good.
But no, it's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Is the idea of
leaky worlds.
Yeah, it's the idea of through I mean, video games have the capacity to hold people's attention in incredible ways. And I think there is on some level a sort of responsibility to recognize that whatever people pay attention to changes them in different ways. And if you expose people to things that are Grand Theft Auto-y, then you're gonna slant some things potentially. It's not that whole thing about like, people play violent video games and then they go out and
Kill everybody.
Because there's no evidence that that's the case. But at the same time, I mean, it's not necessarily going to push you toward like a positive slant on the world. So yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
It's interesting. Maybe we'll do that someday.
Maybe.
I mean, make a good.
Crash Lands, I was just trying to get everybody to go outside and kill all the animals.
Go outside, kill the animals, chop every tree.
But in a bloodless way.
It's fine.
No blood.
Yeah.
With like blow darts.
I think you could do it if you froze animals first and then shattered them. That'd be a lot like the Crash Land style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really gross.
Sort of like in Terminator.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So first question of the day. These questions come from podcast.bscotch.net. This question is about the DICE Awards. It's from Alan Falcon. How do you guys feel about losing out on the DICE mobile game of the year?
Oh, it's bullshit, Alan.
To Pokemon Go.
Just kidding. Yeah.
It was exactly as expected.
So yeah.
Well, we were looking, I was like, here's the thing. Aside from the fact that still nobody knows what Crashlands is, and
that sounds quaint.
So many people played Pokemon Go that like people died playing it. I'm pretty sure that did happen. Yeah. Right. So it also made people get out of their houses. It actually changed the fabric of society for about 2 weeks. Yeah. So that's
which is more than almost anything can do.
Exactly. Yeah. People were going on and on about how like this changes everything. It's like augmented reality. Like now video games and the real world are indistinguishable from one another. And then the next week, everybody's like, I'm tired. And then they just went back to bed. Yeah. But for that short moment, it was very interesting.
Yeah, I think I was cracking the joke a lot in the couple days before the awards. I'd be like, oh yeah, we're up for Mobile Game of the Year. We're against Pokemon Go. So
we got
we already I was like, we already know it's going to happen, which is that we're going to win.
Yeah, well, actually, Pokemon Go was nominated for Mobile Game of the Year and Game of the Year, just period. Oh, right? And so I was looking at that. I was like, okay, obviously they've got a favorite.
Yeah, right. Well, and they're not going to give it Game of the Year because it is a bad game.
Correct.
Oh yeah,
it just there's a lot of people really cool things to happen.
A lot of people debate about whether it could even be called a video game in the sense that it doesn't have most of the systems that people associate with games.
Well, my favorite thing
is a cool map.
My favorite thing about the awards show is actually I'm at a table right up next to the stage. I'm chatting I was with the devs from Inside, as well as a guy from Shell Games who made I Expect You to Die, which is that VR spy game. And so we were just chatting, and then, they have like all the flashy lights. You feel the bass it's just like a really loud thing. And, Crashlands pops up on the screen, and then Pokemon Go, all this stuff. And I was like, cool. And then afterward, I expected to lose, so it wasn't surprising at all. But then afterwards, someone asked me, they were like, did you not feel like so excited when you saw Crashlands show up there? And I was like, I felt nothing. I don't know.
Well,
Like, why?
we've talked. I think we've talked about this in the past, in the sense that making a thing with a group like that, where like no individual thing in Crashlands can any one of us take ownership over, and then having it be, a very slow. Like, it took 2 years to build it, and at no point were we building Crashlands. At each point, like, we were just like, adding a piece,
swamp it.
At little pieces here and there. And then when it's all done, now it's out. It came out last January. It's been out for a year and a few months. At a certain point, you just get a lot of distance from the thing.
Is it fair to say we're over it?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
Right. It's time to move on.
Cool. Next question.
All right, next question comes from Sin Linux. You right there, Sam? Sin Linux says, will you guys at Butterscotch do any sort of Rocket League championship for who's best in the studio's roster?
We already know who's best. It's
I'd enjoy making that a thing when there's time to do it. I placed my money on Adam.
That was a bad bet, buddy.
Yep, you're going to lose.
Yeah, that's that might not be your worst bet in the office.
Yeah.
But it is definitely the worst bet in the trio of brothers.
So are we going to do this thing or what? Because I'm ready.
This is just like going up against Pokemon.
So, wait, we'll just do it and then just tell everybody what happened? Is that what?
Actually, when we were doing our Rocket League tests for our applicants, for some of our hiring stuff, didn't we end up doing a 2v4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seth and one other person against 4 people.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't go well.
It's a piece of cake
for the 4 people. Yeah, so we don't need to do this, I guess, is the point. So you know, like when you have
too lopsided.
When you have one friend who plays a game with you and they're just too good and they make it not fun.
It's no fun.
That's
it's like when I try to play tennis with my wife. She's been playing tennis literally her whole life.
She'll just crush.
Or when I try to play Smash Brothers with my wife, or Set. I don't know if you know that game.
No, but I know Smash Bros.
It's identifying.
I've tried playing Smash Bros against her, and it's just slaughter.
Yeah,
it's very horrifying.
Relatable.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from LT. ELTEA. LT.
Okay.
The T. Regarding episode 87, which was the last episode, I have found as I age 42. I get less enjoyment from games. I think once I understand the mechanics, the underlying grind or reflex-based skill training slog becomes obvious. One counter to this is a good story. Well, I don't know. Things flew off the rails there at the end.
A good story. It sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I may
one counter to this is good story in the game. Okay.
I think you got very confused.
I'll fill that out.
That seems pretty understandable.
What are our thoughts on this? So does a good story, so for starters, is that something where, like, if you've played enough games and you've gotten good at enough games, and then when you start to play it, you realize you're gonna have to put in a lot of time to be good at it, and then you're just like, fuck it.
It's about doing the mental calculus. You're like, I'm 42. I have a job, I got a fam.
This is the same game as a bunch of other ones I played.
I saw this. I'm like, this mechanic is super. Maybe Dark Souls. Everyone's all about Dark Souls. And you're like, you know what? I see how this works. I understand. This is going to take me 300 hours before I can beat this stupid thing. I got a deck to build because I'm a adult.
Well, I think it comes to novelty, kind of, right? Where, like, the first time you do that in your life, like, holy shit, that was awesome, right? And then you go, it's like let's say maybe play Dragon Age Origins, right? Then you move on to Dragon Age 2, and you're like, because that took like 50, 60 hours to get through the original Dragon Age. Now I'm starting over, but it's basically the same game with some tweaks.
But I think that's where the story piece comes in. So I think because humans love stories, and no matter how old you get, it actually doesn't matter how old you get. You're always like, spin me a yarn, Yeah. No one's like, can you imagine if old people, if you started talking about something that happened to you and they were like, I've heard it before.
Yeah, I already know this story. I know how this is going to
They probably have.
I'm sure they probably have, but I think everyone's
the more life experience you get, the more you see the patterns and everything.
It can become more interesting over time, I think. I think stories are the thing that actually start kind of segment. I think maybe that's why we're going the way we're going with the games we're building.
So here's the thing. I don't know shit about shit.
Okay.
So
Hit me.
don't people believe that there's only so many sort of story archetypes? Like there's like 7 main story types that people tend to tell or something like what?
Yeah, but I mean, if you generalize a thing enough, then everything just is the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure it's a useful way to break up the universe.
It's kind of like, so like a
Well,
romantic,
It's like saying everything's made of atoms, so it's all the same.
Yeah.
but it's like, so, you know, think about,
That's a good
say,
point.
a romantic comedy, you know,
Yes.
it's like within the
It's
first,
a rom-com, please.
like the fact that it is that thing, you know what the story is just right out of the gate,
Not
right?
necessarily. I mean, I've seen a lot of them in my time. I can tell you, they're very different. Like The Notebook, totally different story than something like,
She's all that.
You Before Me, She's All That,
I before we.
I Before We, He Before Her, Me Before You,
Heebie-jeebie.
Heebie-Jeebies, Jeepers Creepers. It's not romantic.
Wait, what was she?
Super freaky.
Jeepers Creepers.
There was probably romance involved because there always are.
There's that romance scene when the demon pulls the guy's head through the car roof and
With love, with so much
slices
love.
his head off. It gets me every time.
Yeah, but I think
Every time.
I do think there's something to be said for, as you need more. Let me restart. With mechanical stuff in games, there's always going to be some similarities if you're playing it on the same device and stuff. I think this is why Pokemon Go was such a phenomenon, because it was a different experience all across the board.
But also, you didn't have to be good at anything to do
Correct.
it.
So I think as you get older and you've played more games, it naturally becomes a case that you need to start relying on these other things about the games beyond just the mechanical nature of them. It kind of like, so I read a lot of books, and I now, within like the first chapter, basically decide if I'm going to read it or not, because I read enough now to know, based on someone's writing style, if it's a new enough writing style that I can enjoy it, or sort of falls into a similar pattern of previous ones, or if it's just going to be garbage. For example, I picked up a book, super excited to read, from the library, that was like about business and sort of situating yourself for the future. In the first paragraph, the author was describing a previous project that they worked on, and was just sort of like name dropping the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
The whole first paragraph, it was like reading in like a George R.R. Martin stuff when you have this lineage. I swear to God, it was like a lineage thing. And I read that first paragraph and I was like, I don't care. And then I was returned the book, So I think
your ideas should stand on their own. You shouldn't have to tether them to.
And hopefully a game can signal to you either that the story is going to be its own interesting thing and then deliver that, or that signal those, whatever the sort of additional interesting mechanics are or experiences are.
So what about things like Star Wars: The Force Awakens, where you just take the same story, but you leave the story the same?
You mean every Star Wars movie, actually.
Right.
Well, except for
those three.
The 3 middle ones.
Except for half of them.
There are 8 of them
Every
now.
single one of them.
There's a lot of
half
them.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the real ones that everybody, actually thinks of as the Star Wars movies. Yeah. What is it? It's like of the 5 that exist, is it 3 or 4 of them that are
so
about
I guess
destroying
Star Wars is kind of like what Diablo did, right? Where they're like, they just keep telling the same story over and over again, and they just update the mechanics a little bit.
Yeah.
And the graphics.
But I think it's the thing, it's like everyone's excited to go see a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I was excited.
Well,
I
you got
knew
to
the
space
stories.
them out.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. They were like, it's the Death Star again. And I'm like, wow.
This time it shoots every planet.
Yeah, the first time it shoots one planet, next time it shoots most planets.
Yeah.
And it also eats a sun.
That was pretty cool.
What's the next
wasn't-
Death Star going to do?
Who knows? But this
It's going
thing
to just shoot other Death Stars.
I was surprised. I think that's the interesting thing about stories, because so people love spoilers, right? And I think the reason is,
I don't love spoilers.
maybe you don't,
Well,
but
people love spoilers.
there's been plenty of
you
research.
guys are always insisting this, and it's
There's been research that shows that people like it doesn't remove from the impact for most people of experiencing the story itself.
most, huh?
People claim they hate spoilers, but they love them
They love
secretly.
it. Because so the thing is, it's
You
not
guys are
necessarily
stretching this most into 100% of people. and it makes me
100% of people.
uncomfortable.
Oh,
all
literally
the time.
everybody loves spoilers.
everybody except half. As long as you know like the beginning and the end beats of a story, it's still very interesting. Like for Diablo, for example, you're going to get to kill Diablo, but it's still a question of how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
Right? I got to go through the
You don't know,
Cure-
maybe you're going to become Diablo, and you sort of do,
Well, you do every time, actually.
right? Yeah.
Or
Do
no.
you? No,
Or no, I
just
guess
in the first one.
Diablo
only in the
1.
first one.
Or at least somebody gets a jewel
And then
jammed in
it's
their
like
head.
Deckard Cain's daughter for some reason is Diablo.
Yeah. Oh, spoilers. Thanks,
Cat's
buddy.
out of the bag. Diablo's out of the bag. Whoopsie.
I think she's his niece or something.
Niece
Niece.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Lethalor. Says
Elf.
who says binge listening to this awesome podcast. speaking of the stamp of approval you get from rewards, or I mean awards. He put rewards. I think he means awards.
Gotcha.
How do the buttery gods view, which I think is us? It's a little weird. Don't do that, guys. View those that completed their development degrees. So if you got a game development degree, is that a stamp of approval?
Oh.
I'm gonna sidestep the question in a way, which does also provide an answer.
Okay.
While we were at GDC this time, I decided to make a habit out of every time I talked to somebody new who was in game dev in some way, doing something interesting, ask them what their path was to get there. And there was not a single person of the probably 24 that I asked this question to that came into game development through a program for that purpose in some fashion. There were definitely people who did like, computer science related stuff and ended up being programmers.
These mainly indies you were talking to though.
Indies, but
Smaller
pretty
studios.
successful ones. Yeah. And yeah, so smaller studios. So not AAA stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, because I think that's a lot of what the difference is actually, is that when you're being taught this stuff as a trade, then sort of necessarily the focus is on some sort of, in order to actually have you leave school and like be able to show that you can do something, you have to laser focus on one thing because schools are so easy and they teach you so little, right? So then you get out of there and you have this like narrow beam of focus where like, yeah, I'm a 3D modeler, right? And I can kind of model some stuff. And then now a big AAA studio can train you to hone that skill to like model
some barrels.
Exactly, like model barrels or something.
Just 400
these barrels.
Yeah.
You're the barrel person now.
Yep. So I think, I don't know.
Well, here's
I don't know.
the big question for me. So Sam and I are teaching a game development course, and we were asked to teach this course. And as we were coming up with the curriculum, we were just like, "This is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of dumb to think about game development as a thing that you
Because it's a
learn."
multidisciplinary thing
because
that teams work on.
Yeah, to make a game, you need music, art, animation.
Yeah, I feel
narrative.
kind of bad for these kids because like every week we're switching.
Every week we're
tracks.
like, okay, time for you to be a master in an entirely new field.
But there are things like film schools and stuff that have a similar problem, right? But in those schools, people focus on a very specific thing.
Well, I think in most importantly though, the thing that film schools are known for is actually simply the networking to get you into a studio.
Right.
It's less about your capability coming out, more about who you know.
Yeah, so I think it's weird because making game it's the very rare person who can make an entire game by themselves, like a really really polished, highly commercial, good game, right? Most people
those that can usually take a fucking long time to do it.
Yeah,
'cause it's
and
a
most
big
people can
project.
make a functional prototype of a game in some sense or another, right? Even people with very little programming background can pick up Game Maker or something like that and slap something together over some period of time. So it's an interesting problem because I think the way that I would approach it is actually, like Adam said, pick a thing that you really want to be good at. That is definitely a part of game development, which is basically everything. 3D modeling, art, programming, storytelling, whatever it is. Get really, really good at that thing and demonstrably so.
Yeah, I think that's the big problem. Is
Save a
demonstration.
portfolio.
Well, I think this
basically.
is actually the problem I see with something like game dev as a general
Or game design.
or design is that so getting really really good at game design actually just requires that you've worked end to end on a bunch of different projects.
A lot of projects.
Like I don't think we've gotten. I think it wasn't until probably like a year ago. I wouldn't honestly say that we were really have become much better at game design than we were.
and even still, like
We don't know.
We got there's holes all
we
over
don't
the
know what
place.
we're doing,
And we'll only know exactly where they were once this next project is done. Right. Unfortunately. So the one thing I would caution against is, all of us had our own sort of thing when we went to school. It was not game dev related particularly, but I think the one bad thing about choosing like game design or game dev as a curricula is that it is so broad, so thoroughly broad that there's the really good risk, I think, of actually coming out with no serious depth skill. And so in my case, like I didn't have any skills coming out of school. It's just a fact. None that I got from school anyways, but I had done, because of the psych focus, I had a depth of knowledge in a particular field that was way more than most people have coming out.
Yeah.
And certainly if I kept on, like if that was just a piece of the pie, and like if I was teaching game dev as a curricula, I would include some psych pieces, right? But it's not like we wouldn't have time to do a deep dive on it per se.
So instead, little bits of psychology kind of get sprinkled.
Right. And so
throughout
I'm wondering
everything.
almost if it's better to, from an educational standpoint, approach your entry into game dev from a deep diving into a single topic. So saying, I'm going to go like program the shit out of stuff, or I'm going to go learn how to make art.
Mm-hmm.
Generally 2D art, whatever else, or UI, UX, pick a thing and then let that speak to whatever the games are that you make later on. Because games are a general skill, and unfortunately you can't it's really hard to learn as an expert like 20 skills simultaneously.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Actually, there was one person I talked to who did actually go to school all the way, like start to finish for game development. Or game design, but the focus on that school was actually for like producing an indie developer that could run a studio, right?
Oh, interesting.
Like a small studio. So it was a really tight business focus, like economics and marketing, and the whole purpose of that was to give a cursory overview of like the whole fucking deal, right? Of like what it would be like to go
project
out into the world, project management, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's sort of like how kind of like an MBA works almost, like that kind of thing,
game focus.
But with a game focus. And so I think that can work. And this particular person I talked to also just spent an enormous amount of time also making games and programming games, right? So that they were also good at that, but that wasn't really part of the curriculum.
Because interestingly, nothing about their class structure would actually allow them to make games.
Right.
They'd have to go out on their own and learn those skills. Yeah. So, but I think the one golden rule to always think about is if you want to get into game development, then you don't get to not like things. Right.
Yeah. But I think just as a person,
yeah. But it's hard to succeed at most things in life if you just decide that there are certain domains of knowledge that you just have decided to hate and you don't want to learn. Right. So you don't get to say, yeah, I hate art. I don't care about it. I don't like it. Or I don't like music and I'm just not going to do it in my games or whatever. Because games require a full, like you have to embrace all these different fields of knowledge and learn as much as possible about them, then you have to really go hard on that. And
yeah, but I think, otherwise the problem with structured learning in general is that it allows you to be lazy because you get to feel like somebody is telling you how all the things work. And if you learn those things, then you're checking boxes and then you're fine. And if a program is rigorous enough and intense enough so that every waking moment of your life is checking off those boxes, that can work. But that's almost never the case. There are very few programs like that unless you're doing like a condensed boot camp or something. So the problem is that, these courses have like a semester long course is like an 18-hour thing or whatever, right? Meaning that's how many hours over a whole like 3 fucking months, right? That's so little time where you're being instructed in a thing. And then you have homework that maybe adds up to another twice that on top of that again, right? But in that case, like you're talking a week of time, right? Spread out over 3 months.
It'll be a great class. If you're in a programming class, right? Let's say you're at a intro to programming, it's a Python course, right? Or something. And on day one, the professor just puts up a question on the board or like a problem. They say, yeah, here's what we're trying to solve. This is the problem that we need to solve. That's it. Go figure it out. You have the entire semester to teach yourself how Python works. And I'll just be here as a mentor. Yeah.
Yep. And the problem is that because people are taught to be given the checklist. Given the checklist. And so
all the information is out there. It's you just Google.
Well, I think so. So to get back to the question though, as far as like what does it mean to have one of these degrees?
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't mean anything. It could
if you also did the work to develop a portfolio, but then it's just.
But then it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Because if you can't, so all we can say is for our own studio, right? And for us, if the idea is if you can't demonstrate to us your competency, then we're not interested. And a degree is not a demonstration of competency.
Yes.
It's in a lot of places, it's a bare minimum requirement to demonstrate that you might have competency. Here, it's not. We just want to look for competency, right? But that's it.
Yeah, that's true. I would say most game studios, because of the fact that if you talk to people, most people don't get into games through game programs. It's through sheer demonstration of will and grit and capability. So
cool.
So next question. Kulabula.
Nice.
Yeah. Kulabula says, I thought about your article on free-to-play breaking immersion with ads and how you don't want to make a game like that, even though we did. But
was this a while? This must have been a while ago.
Might have been. I realized radio and TV are like that. Yeah. Imagine Breaking Bad, Hannibal, Westworld. That's 3 separate shows. That's not one show. Were never made for the same reasons. Thoughts?
Well, let's walk that back though, because HBO does not have ads.
Yeah, HBO does not have ads.
All 3 of those are on HBO, correct?
No, Breaking Bad was AMC. I don't know about the other ones.
Okay.
But Breaking Bad did have advertisements.
Did it? Okay. I watched it on Netflix, so I don't know.
So you never know. Yeah.
So
So imagine these shows were never made because their creators thought, I don't want to have ads in my show.
Then other things would have been made instead.
Well, so there's also no. This isn't parody with what we did and what we've been doing with the games. I wouldn't say so. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the storytelling, and then so you can use ads in a television show to actually increase suspense for when the show gets back.
Well, that's what they have to do because they know there's going to be that pause.
You can't have somebody just be mid-sentence and it's like, let's buy some bleach.
Right.
It is weird to watch those same shows on Netflix where they clearly designed around
and they do like a 15-second recap every
or all of a sudden the music gets really tense and it like zooms in on their face and then it cuts out. And then when it cuts back in, it zooms in on their face from a different angle slightly to remind you where you were.
Yeah.
I'm not super sure what the question's asking.
So I think digging deeper into the question is it possible that there are things that would have been made or would not have been made that were or were not made based on the presence of ads?
Let's just break this out.
Or we can simplify that and just say, are ads actually a good thing because they allow certain things to be made?
I mean, just break it out. So there's the reality of financing something like a television show or a video game.
Yep.
And then there's the reality of building the best play experience or viewing experience. I don't think any television show person who's making the television show is going to be like, yeah, I want you to sell bleach in the middle of this episode that's super
Oh, no,
heartfelt.
they absolutely don't.
Yeah, absolutely not. So there's a difference here, though, as far as like funding versus the actual consumption of the thing at the end of the day from a creator standpoint. But there's the realities of there's just the simple reality of the market, which is that in the case of TV or something, you cannot, oftentimes until recently with Netflix and HBO, you literally can't escape. You can't sell it. There's a movie, I guess, at that point, right? You can sell a movie straight up, but those usually cost a shitload more money to make than TV.
Well, and I think importantly,
they don't have ads. Yeah.
I think importantly, ads in a TV show or a radio show are a little bit different in the sense that you aren't doing anything. You're passive, right? So in a TV or radio interaction between you and the gadget is you're just sitting there drooling, right? Sure. That's your level of participation. When it comes to
I just envisioning you in your car just like drooling while
your eyes are glazed over. You know, there's things are just being crammed into your head.
So you're saying that because there's interaction in a game, then the insertion of an ad, which actually
it's
breaks,
more disruptive.
Right, it's more disruptive than I could say.
Okay, but what about like an action show? You know,
you're still not doing anything.
Yeah, but you're still like if you're on the edge of your seat anticipating what's going to happen.
It's still very disruptive.
Yeah, and versus like a boring as fuck video game where you're like, thank God I just saw an ad. You know?
Thank God.
Yeah, I think that's
spiced up by gameplay.
That's a false dichotomy. But I think more importantly, there's a reason that things are the way they are, right?
Correct.
And that is that the devices that first broadcast information out were things where you could not detect who was listening to them because it just goes over the air. Right? We talked about this a little bit last time. But that means that the only way to have people pay for the stuff they're consuming is by either selling them the devices they consume on, which actually used to be how it was done, or by having the people who are providing the content somehow sell something, right? So that they have a way to pay for the thing because they can't ask the consumer directly to do it. And so that model caught on a long time ago, which is this book that we mentioned also talks about. And then became the dominant model really fast because it was way more convenient and easier than the rest of the stuff.
To give people things for free, round them up, and then put stuff in front of them.
Right. But then with the advent of, cable and stuff where you can actually send a signal in both directions, you can actually find out who's watching what, which means you can charge people specifically, which is actually how HBO has worked for a long time as just an example, right? Where they don't do ads, you just pay for the service and they make amazing shows. Right. Same deal with Netflix. Make amazing shows, no commercials. You just pay for the service because we can actually detect that. The problem is that as a culture, both on the selling shit side and consuming shit side, the dominant way of us paying for things is by us being sold on behalf of other things, right? And that's been the dominant way for a long time. So all of our infrastructure is built for that. The internet is built for that, right? It's expected that you just go to a website and you can see everything there. That's just what happens. Or you go somewhere else, right? And the only way to make that work is by somebody throwing an ad in your face. Otherwise, they had to put a paywall in front of you or something, right? Or there had to be a toll that you pay for every byte that you use. And then whatever website sends that byte, that's who it goes to, right? There would need to be an entirely different system for that to work. And so until we actually have that, then it's just going to be, this is just how it has to be, right? But it's an infrastructure problem. It's not a problem that if we just used a different way, like us directly paying for things, we would just have like worse stuff. We'd have different stuff because the whims of time and stuff, right? But yeah, that's a structural problem.
Yeah, and I don't think you could say, so for example, Breaking Bad, fantastic show. I don't think you can say something like, you know, the creators made the show worse by, you know, making room for the ads or whatever. It's hard to say because, of course, we don't have a Breaking Bad without ads and a Breaking Bad with ads.
It would just be a different constraint.
It's a different constraint, yeah. But the fact is it's a great show. And if you watch it without ads, it's still a great show. Watch it with ads, it's probably not as enjoyable.
Everything is worse with ads.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's hit one more question. This comes from Darth Ewok 99.
Nice. Can Ewoks be Jedis?
I don't see why not.
As long as they got those midichlorians.
Is that all it takes?
Can you just inject someone with those? I mean, come on.
I always wondered this. When Anakin got all of his limbs chopped off,
did he become a lot of
because like they established in the lore, you know, midichlorians is in your blood, right? And they were like, oh, like he's midichlorians, like they're crazy, they're everywhere, they're off the charts and stuff. So I believe that's the quote from the Jedi Council.
But can't you just inject people with midichlorians then and just make a stem
maybe
cell
there's some kind of an immune response.
Maybe they're genetically encoded, but then they have a bunch of clones they could put them into.
Yeah.
They're good at making clones.
Yeah, because if it's part of if it's in your blood, then you could clone
biological substrate,
and you can clone people.
Yeah, why did they clone a whole Jedi army?
Yeah, why did they clone just a random bounty hunter when they could have cloned Anakin?
Because they're magicians. They could have cloned wizards.
And because they also said, they were like, oh my gosh, oh gee whiz, his Jedi-ness is so good.
So powerful.
So mega good powerful that he's going to tip the balance of the force scales, right? They're like, there's a prophecy about this. Problem is, he's like 6, and that's way too old to start training, right? So couldn't they have just been like, well, I guess we won't use him, but we'll just clone him. We'll make a new one.
Make a baby one.
Yeah, make a baby one.
Start over.
Train that one up.
Make them fight each other.
From scratch. And I think a bigger question
maybe that's actually what like Darth Maul was that clone. And he just also turned out to be evil. So then,
so
you know, maybe all Jedi are clones.
Is Darth Maul actually Anakin?
He might be. Maybe all Jedi are actually just clones of each other.
No, because Darth Maul is a Zabrak, which is the type of alien.
Zebra?
I think it's called a Zabrak.
Maybe but it could just be a clone.
They didn't really go far away from the whole, like, it's got some stripes on it.
And horns. There's horns. He's got horns. Yeah.
We're going to get skewered by some Star Wars fans.
Yeah, but seriously, I think
as
once
if with a lightsaber.
I think once they
can you be skewered with a lightsaber if it doesn't like exist?
Oh, you can be skewered with anything.
No, I feel like you'd be like stuck on it.
Yeah,
you can't get stuck on a lightsaber.
I feel like you can only not be skewered by something that's bigger than you, like a bus. Like you can't be skewered by a bus or an elk. Well, I guess.
But then you should be able to be skewered by like a cannonball or something, which doesn't seem like the right thing, you know?
It has to be long enough to be out both ends of you at the same time.
Okay, so while it's on,
stationary,
but I feel like you have to be able to be stuck on it.
No, that's different.
No, I think it's what skewering is.
Yeah, because if you fall after you've been skewered onto a lightsaber, then you just
get cut in half. You're not skewered.
Yeah,
you're pierced.
You just got pierced.
You got pierced by a saber.
So
of light.
So I think where I was going was with the midichlorians.
Okay.
They had this cool thing, and they were like, it's basically magic. You know, it's the force. It's this stuff that exists in all living things, right? They said that. Obi-Wan said that. And there's moments where like Alderaan explodes, and then Obi-Wan is like, oh my gosh, I felt that from super far
from
away.
Over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take? Does it travel at the speed of light?
Probably quantum entanglement.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all entangled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somehow,
how do you lift rocks?
Well, that's the thing. Like somehow you've got the force in your goo,
blood,
in your body goo, and then that lets you levitate rocks and stuff.
Even though they don't have the force.
They don't have the force. So they tried to kind of like go sciencey with it by explaining that there's some kind of a bacterium.
But is that they interact with each other and that's how it works?
I don't think so. That's why I don't think it's the case. Like having a lot of midichlorians is how you interact with the midichlorians.
Because then 2 Jedi would be able to just like explode each other instantaneously, right?
But nobody else.
Everybody else
Jedi are
let those weirdos just pop each other.
Jedi are only useful against other Jedi,
but they're really gonna do like flips and stuff. So they're just like running around doing flips and exploding.
But so I think this leads to two questions.
Okay.
So one is,
like
so
maybe
your
more.
force powers come from midichlorians.
Okay.
Like having a lot of them is a big deal.
They come from your blood.
They come from your blood. Anakin lost all of his limbs
And probably a lot of his blood.
and a lot of his blood. Is he weaker as a Jedi now because he just has less blood in his body?
The question is the density of those midichlorians.
Because maybe they
Go
all sensed the lava or whatever the fuck he lost.
And they
his
all
arms
went
from.
into his
exactly,
torso.
and that went into his torso. So now he's just super dense, which is why he got more powerful.
Could be
he's like a neutron star of
midichlorians.
So really, they just need to lop his head off, and just so that they're all in his brain.
So you actually want to be the smallest.
The smallest.
That's why Yoda.
That's why Yoda was so.
that's
good.
why an
dark
Ewok.
All right. What's the question?
Well, because there's hold on. There's a second thing. There's a second thing I need to address here, which is Anakin was like 6 or something.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, but he's too old. You know, we can't train him because he has all these stupid ideas about the world because he's 6 now and he's learned all kind of terrible things. And now we would have to unteach him all these things. And otherwise now he's going to become a terrible Jedi, right?
And they didn't teach him anything.
No, they didn't teach him anything. They just skipped that.
What's
whole
your
part.
point?
So the question is, if being 6 is too old, when do you, like, what's the age at which you know a person is a Jedi, but also that they don't know enough about shit that you can start teaching
Well,
them?
if it's in their blood, can't you just test them as a baby?
Or maybe maybe all Jedi are normally like part of a husbandry process.
Ooh, wait.
So like, you know who's.
No, because they're not supposed to have romantic relationships.
Here's an interesting
Yeah,
question.
well, then how do you make more of them if it's a
I
genetic
don't know.
thing?
None of this makes any sense.
So isn't it the case that during pregnancy, if there's some extreme cases in which the baby will actually send stem cells to the mother?
Oh, so maybe the mother becomes a
So
Jedi.
here's my question.
also.
Yeah. If you make a Jedi an accident, does it actually turn the mom into a Jedi?
It depends if it's coming from the stem cells or not.
But what if it's coming from the blood?
I mean, not necessarily.
Well, this is a bigger question though.
Probably.
Is a fetus capable of being a Jedi? And what does that mean?
At what point does Jedi begin?
Yeah.
And when can you? When,
Yeah,
when is it legal?
Right.
Is it a Jedi just like right out of the gate?
Yeah.
All right. What is the question?
All right. So the question, the question comes from Darth Ewok 99. If the Butterscotch universe were made into a Lego movie, what could we expect the plot to look like? And who would be the main antagonist? We all saw Lego Batman. We saw Lego Batman.
So good.
There's going to be
My
spoilers
God.
probably in this conversation.
Oh,
But
yeah,
as
definitely go
we
see it.
established, people love spoilers.
Yeah. Every single one of you is going to wish that we spoiled it.
Dumbledore.
Everybody's
dies.
like, oh, thank God. I wanted to know what happened at the end of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
They use their abs.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
That movie.
That's all I'm going to say.
I think the real protagonist of the Lego Batman movie was Abs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All
So
the
was
other
it-
characters, including Batman, were just sort of side characters.
Mhm.
So what
And
would be like
abs
the
were the real hero.
storyline for a Butterscotch Universe Lego movie?
Okay, so it has to have like a family vibe, right?
It's all about building a family.
Yeah. So
Always.
because of course, the original
teamwork.
Yeah, the original Lego movie was all about a father rediscovering basically happiness,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
where he had decided that playing was something he didn't do anymore, and instead he's going to glue all of his Legos together like a weirdo.
Mhm.
So that's and his-
Craggle.
Yeah. And so
Crack.
and so the son was like, "Nah, Dad, you gotta play with the Legos." And the dad's like, "Oh," and then
Right.
lessons were learned. So then the Lego Batman movie was Batman is alone.
He's a
And
loner.
He's alone in the world, and he thinks he doesn't need anybody, but really he totally does.
Well, he's afraid to need somebody.
He's afraid to need somebody.
Because you might lose them
Yeah.
And it turns out you're less likely to lose them
if you got other
if
buddies.
you got buddies, because then you work together as a team
Mhm.
using your abs.
So
Yeah.
usually, there's a lot of family and sort of team vibes. So I mean, Flux and Juicebox are an easy sort of go-to combo. For
Yeah,
this
but
whole
you
thing.
have to have a
They're
character.
difficult as Legos though. I mean, Flux is obviously fine, but a juice box.
I could see.
Oh, well, but
You
it's
do
also
it?
the case that you need a main character with a flaw, right? Because in Lego Batman, is all about his not wanting to be with people.
But they also like convert a flaw, right? Because like that's not really
the
considered a flaw.
the
in
movie is
usual-
about the character overcoming the flaw, right?
Mhm.
Because in the original Lego movie, it was the construction worker dude,
Mhm.
and he had no self-confidence,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Wasn't that what it was?
Maybe, I don't know.
Something.
Like
He
wanted
needed
to
to
be a
become a
builder.
master builder. Yeah,
Yeah.
but he for some reason wasn't.
And then finally, like, there's a scene where he like gets up when he does his rallying speech, and it was like, "Oh my god!" And then now he is turned around as a character, and now he's leading everybody, right? So I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to come up with a movie plot on the spot, Rhymes.
Yeah, but at least we got a good framework.
Yeah, we know how to do it.
There's definitely going to be abs.
We got time. We're over limits.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
All right, you guys, this has been Coffee with Butterscotch. Thank you all for listening. And if you want to get your questions on to next week's podcast, head on over to podcast.beastguys.net. Throw some questions in there. All right, I'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.